Hello and welcome. It is Monday, August 16th, 2021. This is the SOS show with James Lott Jr. And who am I? James Lott Jr., the super organizer. Yeah, I would say I'm the SOS. That doesn't make any sense. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm in the heat right now in Los Angeles, so if I'm a little delirious, just forgive me. I mean, I'm having coffee. I'm trying to wake up. Trying to get this going. But I'm with one of my favorite people, so I get to, so this will be a fun time. She has a new book out. I'll make sure I read the title correctly. And if you want to hold up, you can hold it up. I'm right here. 10 ways to get help for hoarding and chronic disorganization. Ooh, we need that. It's a cute book too. I like the bench. I want that in my garden. She is the founder and president of Discover Organizing in my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Woo! My girl, and it's a hardcover cover. I like that. My girl, Jill Yesko. Hello, Jill.
Hi, James. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, she's been on the show once before, so you can go ahead and watch that episode. But first, before I start, I always do my thanks and gratitude. And actually, I want to tie this one into organizing. And I want to get your thoughts on this too a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to give my thanks and gratitude, kind of also dedicate the show. 4 years ago, yesterday and today, I lost my dog, then my grandmother. It was one of the hardest 2 days of my entire life. Both were unexpected. I did not expect them. But they are with me in spirit, of course. But as you know, I also have stuff of theirs. And recently, I got rid of some of that stuff. And we're talking about hoarding and chronic disorganization. But one of the things that how it can start, and Jill can also with this also, is a trauma or experience happens. And for me, it was a sudden death of both, a day apart. It was very hard for me and my family. And I kept holding on to his clothes, his leashes, all this stuff that I'm not using. And my grandmother, I held on to a lot of stuff first too. But I love Grand Susie. I love you, Scrabble. I miss you every day. And this show is dedicated to you.
Aww, Scrabble.
Scrabble, my little baby. Everybody knew Scrabble. But it's okay. But that's part of the problem. Sometimes things can happen, Jill, out of a death or some kind of trauma. And death is a trauma. Somebody's death is a trauma.
It sure is.
That is something, and I can start a process of holding and hoarding onto their stuff, even though they're not here. That can be an issue, can it?
Oh heavens! I mean, I think it's those physical things that we grow the attachment to because it's all we have left. In our heads, that's what we think. Like the object is all we have left of them. So if we keep it around, then they're still with us too. And, you know, as professional organizers, there's lots of creative ways that we come up with to help people release objects if they need to. Some people may not need to. For instance, if it gives you joy and pleasure to look at some of his things, you know, sometimes I suggest taking, you know, like sort of making a shadow box of his little cute, you know, maybe a picture of him, and then maybe his little charm that said Scrabble. I've done that even with my own pets because I don't really keep their ashes. I keep a photo and then their name tag. Yeah. And I frame them and I'm able to look at them that way. And it's usually a really funny picture or them doing something crazy because dogs just make me laugh. You know, I've had dogs my whole life and I'm the same way as you. I'm very sentimental about my dogs. I'll do anything I can for them. And my fiance always says, you know, when I come back in my next life, I want to come back as one of your dogs.
we take care of.
Oh, these dogs are very spoiled, but you know, if they need something health-wise, I don't even waste a moment. So I hear you. And then that grandparent issue, you know, gosh, you know, losing a grandparent or anyone suddenly like that in a traumatic way, you know, whether you have time to prepare for it mentally. I mean, we all know that we're going to pass on. We also know that our family members are going to go, but it doesn't mean that we're ready to let them go. And so, you know, paring down stuff is really difficult. So one of the things I just finished doing, actually, I'm in the middle of my own downsizing of my own memorabilia right now.
Okay. I'm glad I mentioned this then. Glad I mentioned it. Okay.
We're going to be putting this on YouTube as a sort of a documentary film that we're actually making. We have it professionally edited and put together. And so you're going to see me going from having 15 bins of memorabilia down to 5 coffee table books. hopefully by Christmas. So we're really trying to practice what I preach. Like, why do I have all this stuff under my bed when I could be putting stuff in a shadow box? I could be putting my memorabilia, photograph it like sort of like a museum book with a white background, and like tell the story of the little first baby booties that I wore. Why am I holding on to baby booties? I just need to tell the story.
Right.
And I want to be able to see them. Well, I don't need them under, in a box wrapped in tissue paper. I'm not going to be pulling them out and like looking at my baby booties like, oh, look, who cares? I wore them. They were on my feet. I'm not a celebrity. It doesn't matter. It's not going to go for auction, but I think having them not bronzed is okay, but actually photographed, and me telling the story of, when I first walked, this is the way I walked, or something funny about me that I was told, right? That's the part we need to share as humans. We all need to tell our story. So when it comes to, the grandparents and that kind of stuff, that's one thing. But when you're dealing with a traumatic situation, one of the things I mentioned, it's hard when someone dies in a tragic way and it's a sudden way. And so we need our time to process that. So when my first husband passed away, he had taken his own life, and that was very tragic, and it was very sudden. And my children were extremely deeply affected by that.
Yeah.
So when he first passed away, you have all this stuff.
Right.
And you don't touch it for a while because it's too hard. And then a few years later, you maybe go through a few things, or maybe 6 months later, whatever you're ready for. And grief operates differently in everyone, but I had 2 kids to manage with that grief. So when they were ready, they came to me and said, we're ready. So we got it down to 8 bins from 12, and we labeled them. And then 3 years ago, when I moved to the north side, I got all that stuff, and we made it 5 bins, and we categorized very specific things. And each kid took some larger items and displayed them in their home.
Oh, okay.
But we still had 5 bins.
Yeah.
So now, 3 years after that, we had a meeting last week, family meeting, very important to have. So everyone's on the same page, not making assumptions or judgments or whatever.
Yes.
Those are my social work days coming out.
I know. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
But James, this was so important. We sat down, the 3 of us, and I said, how do you want to remember Daddy? Like, do you want a photo book with all the awards? Because he had so many awards. He was a public affairs officer for the Army. Okay. And he was such a good graphic artist, as well as journalist and photographer for the Army. So, we came up with a plan. And we're going to take this huge bin of awards, and we're going to photograph each plaque. And then we're going to dispose of the plaques, and we're going to make like awards and recognition book. And then we're going to have another book of him being a father. And I think we're really excited about that, because now there's going to be 5 bins. They're going to be 0, but they're each going to get a book. And they already have the big stuff that they want. They have his uniform, we're going to take pictures of his patches and of his medals, and we're going to have a really, I think a very good experience as a family. Now that it's been over a decade, not that much more over a decade, but it's been a little while. And now we feel stronger to do more of the fun side of remembering a life and honoring him that way. So that's just one experience that organizing professionals can use as a body double, as somebody coming in and just being a support person, as someone moves through that grief and works through their physical things, knowing that there is a way to still hold on to those things, but maybe less 3-dimensionally.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that story. I know it's tough. Yes. Ironically, I got shadow boxes. So I have 2 of Scrabble's favorite jerseys. And like, I guess it's our Taurus nature. I have a picture of Scrabble looking mean at me. He always gave me attitude and shade all the time. He loved me to death, but he always gave me shade if I bothered him. Be like, and he has that look. And everybody knows that look in my family. So I got a picture of that. So it's funny you just said that. That's what I'm going to do. Because I'm the same way. I'm like, I love animals, dogs and cats make me laugh all the time. They do the weirdest things that make me laugh. So I thought, here's Scrabble in an outfit that he loved, which I have the picture of it and the jersey. And then he's giving me this like dirty look, like, why are you bothering me? Like, that's the look, and I love it. So that's what I did. So for him, I did do that. But
Oh,
I
that's
guess,
perfect then. That's going to be
yes.
great.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'll send out, everybody will see it. I'll put it out there. But then also, another great thing, folks out there, that I want to mention, especially with animals products, the ones that aren't worn out and aren't, crazy. I mean, we have some leashes you only used once or twice. We can just whatever. I donated them to animal shelters. Some of the old blankets we wash them, they're fine. We donate them to animal shelters. A lot of them need them. A lot of the dogs are just on concrete slabs or floors. Any
They ask
towels you
for them
have,
all the time.
they ask for them
They're
all the
always
time.
asking me, do you have any blankets or towels?
Yeah.
Bring them into your appointment.
Yeah, and because we get rescue dogs in my family. We do not breed. We always go and get rescue dogs. So that's something that you can also do too out there. So you have excess stuff that's in halfway decent condition, not like all chewed up. Like all those toys I threw out, I didn't give the toys to anybody.
Well, yeah.
That kind of stuff. But like there are things people can actually use. All my extra pooper scooper bags, so I gave it to them. I did all. You don't know, nothing too small. You never know what they might need.
No, they need everything. They need
everything. And for my granny, one of the things I did just recently, I have a new grandchild, Trenton, who was born 4 months ago. I'm in love with him completely, and I miss him. He's in Sacramento, which is north of here. So for my grandmother who passed, I had 3 of her Afghans that she had made back in the 60s.
Okay.
I don't need all 3 of them. Like I feel like you're just like I kept one for myself clearly, but I gave one to my new grandson. And I was like, this is from your great grandmother, I guess, because my grandchild, whatever. I was just like, it's from your relative. No, I explained.
From one of your ancestors.
Your ancestors, yeah, exactly. I explained to my daughter who, this is who it's from. So now he can use it. We washed it. We put in this whole big thing, and so now it's being actually used. But also, I passed it on as an heirloom.
Yeah.
Pass it on to like she said to your kids. What do you want with your dad's? Like display it. This is yours. And so it's part of his heritage. And it was handmade by her. So I thought I'll pass it on. But why have 3 of them sitting here getting dusty? Below my bed or underneath my lamp. I'm just like, why are you sitting there? They're not being used. So I agree with you on that stuff. So that's what the thing is, if it's not encumbering you, I want people to think we just throw everything out. I have my grandmother's Bibles. They're in a great spot. They're displayed in a spot. Her rosary is back there against the wall. Like they're somewhere. So it's not like if they're in the way and they hinder how you live.
Right.
That's kind of where you can start looking at your life and what you have. I'm right now working with somebody too, Jill, that's leaving a 1,200 square foot home in the hills down to 800 square foot condo.
Mm.
It's been tough. We're working on it. We're getting there, working on it. And so the downsizing has been tough for her. It's been tough just because there's 20 years in this place. The kids are grown. We know you and I both know how that is. The kids are grown. Yeah. They're already gone. I got her to send them their stuff. We worked that out.
Oh, that's really good, James.
You know how that is, kid. You know how that is, Jill. That is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
That's probably. Okay. We'll get to the book. The book is so good. It's about hoarding and chronic disorganization. We're actually mentioning things that can lead to hoarding disorder.
Sure, absolutely. The accumulation can be situational or it can be chronic, right?
Yes. I want to make sure I say that. Yes.
Yeah. So to mention another book, Katie Tracy wrote, I think behind the closed door.
I know.
Behind the closed door, but she does a really good job in her book about how, really gets in depth into situational versus chronic. And I really just focus in this book. I do a quick explanation of the 2 of those things and what an explanation of hoarding disorder is. But really the book is 10 methods to get help for these things if you already know you're experiencing them. And I do put the quality of life scale from the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. The information on how to do that quiz is in the book, and I really strongly encourage everyone to take that quiz before moving to the first method, the first chapter. And that's really important, I think, to explore where you are with it, because a lot of people say when they call me, oh, I must be a hoarder, I have a lot of stuff. Yeah, but when we get into your house and you've gotten rid of 60% of your stuff with not even blinking an eye, to me, that doesn't qualify you as someone with hoarding disorder. That tells me that you had a situation that occurred, or your life, took you in a direction of not attending to things every day or every weekend, or, what some of us do every quarter, we go through our closets, we purge stuff. So that tells me something else happened to stop you from having those best practices occur every quarter or every month in your home. So what this book does, and I interviewed 10 professional organizers, and they're all of their credentials are explained in the back of the book, but we get into each of their techniques, because I believe every professional organizer has their own method and their own way, just like you and I work differently, but we get to the same place. And I just really love that about our profession, is that you can have your own style. And I think that's really fun. And that we don't fit into a mold, but we do have best practices that we've learned through, NAPO, which is, the National Association of Organizing and Productivity Professionals, right? We have, I hope I nailed that one. They changed
it. You did. You said it right.
And I feel like, learning those best practices, and I am a CPO, and taking that and then meeting all these other women that are in the ICD and NAPO, they really, to me, really personified all the different methods. So virtual organizing, working with an organizer coach. What does that feel like? Working with an organizing team. What might that feel like to work with an entire team of professionals? Working one-on-one, and then working with a coach plus a team virtually. I mean, I've kind of given everyone all different scenarios, and the beautiful thing about the methods is that they can be combined. You don't have to just pick one method, and what method might work for you now, 3 years from now, you can pick up the book and pick a different method and know what that might feel like. So I took a very Mr. Rogers style approach to the 10 methods, so that people would know this might feel weird when this happens. This might feel kind of surprising. When you hang up after the first time you make a call to a professional organizer to schedule that initial assessment, you might be feeling these 20 different emotions and add more. So I kind of get into that. But I have like a hopeful, wish, I guess, that I want therapists and professional organizers to work with clients, together to use that collaborative therapy approach, because a lot of people that have been diagnosed with those comorbidities, like, having the brain-based disorders, like ADHD, having those diagnoses, plus depression, plus maybe a physical element that is there and preventing them from feeling successful in their environment. If all of those three components could work together like a team, the client gets help clinically and emotionally from the right person, which is the clinician, and the clinician sits down and writes up, based on that session, some goals that a professional organizer who's in the trenches and in the field with that client can then work on with that client, and then get back to the therapist as a group. I just think that is such a beautiful solution if it's possible.
I completely agree. I think this should be tandem. This should work hand in hand. I mean, I think it's just kind of, we're talking, like you said, I'm glad you made the distinction a little earlier. There are folks who just, like I said, life happens, you get really busy. I mean, it happens to me sometimes where, like, over a week, I'm like, wait a minute. But see, I'm conditioned to, after a week, go, what's going on? Not everybody's conditioned that way. So I mean, so it's like, it's just that you get busy, and like, or I have people who travel a lot. Yeah. Not really, they're so busy picking what they need to travel and stuff. So here, just grab it, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, I live in a pigsty, or I have all this stuff from my travels. I haven't put it where it needs to go. And it's that's what we're here for, to help you determine if it's just that, and you just need a person to come in and help you straighten it out, or if you really do have an issue, and that needs to be addressed. Yeah, so I'm glad you said it a little earlier. There's a difference.
There's a big difference, and I feel like, one of the things I highlighted was, the TV shows, all the different TV shows that you could watch, and they sometimes get a bad rap. But I in my book, I kind of share with people and teach people how to watch the TV shows. So, I mean, I think we all know how to watch television.
Yes.
But do you know how to, just like when you attend a meeting, do you bring a notebook into your meeting? Yes. Do you bring a calendar into your meeting? Yes. So why don't you watch the television show and extract what you need from it? Like usually what the clinician is saying or the professional organizer to the client, listen for some of those tips and strategies for behavior changes and figure out with your notebook or your calendar or your professional organizer how you're going to make those changes and put a plan in place. So really listening differently and watching differently is what I'm asking the reader to do. And in that reader, like I said, maybe the person that needs the help might be a neighbor or friend that can gently encourage someone to read that book. Or it could be a therapist, a social worker, a discharge nurse at a psychiatric hospital where the person might be hospitalized for another issue. And they say, I don't want to go home. I have so much stuff. Or the husband says, I don't want to take her home because we live in a hoarded home, or we live in a home where I just can't keep my head above water. What do I do? And that discharge nurse can say, you know what, I'm going to give you guys this to take home. And this might help. And so that's a really nice, I think that's just a really nice gift to give someone that doesn't have all the answers all the time, is to give them that tool.
Yeah, and I was bringing up earlier about why she and I were agreeing so much on the adult children component. That's a major component for both sides. For the parent that's at home who wants to hold on to everything, or the parent that's holding on to stuff for the children one day, and the kids don't really care about the stuff, or they're not really involved, and
Right.
so the parents feel stuck. So it's either they feel stuck or they're holding on to the memories so tightly because they're empty nesters, or just like, again, or a traumatic experience happens. So it's funny, I've seen both of that.
Yeah, and all those situations, and that's what I really want people to understand, is that even though I'm only giving 10 methods in the book, there's probably hundreds of them.
Oh, yeah.
And there's all different variations, but this gets the conversation started.
Yes, I agree with that. Any book, especially. I mean, it's, for me, it was Organized from Inside Out, Julie Morgenstern. That got me in the business. I've told that story 1,000 times. I mean, it was like that book landed in my hands. To me, there's no coincidence. It landed in my hands when I was like, I'm going to change my life at 40. And that's really what happened. And that book changed my life. And it's just one person's stance on organizing. And I've read many books since then. I have my own book out.
Right.
Also organizing. But
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So it's just one of those things that she's right. There's so many different methods, but this book could speak to you. You never know. Every book is different, and when you read it,
Yeah.
Jill's book could be the one that actually makes you go, let me look at my stuff, or let me see what's going on with me. It could get you, and you could read it. It could be maybe relatable to you, where it's kind of, So I want to ask you. So what made you decide? I mean, I've been knowing you've been writing a book for a while, but I mean, what made you decide to actually enter the book market?
Oh gosh. Well, I've always wanted to be a writer since I was little. And I thought I'd be this amazing fiction writer or nonfiction, and I thought I was gonna, tell stories and murder mysteries. And I'm been working on a book now for, I think, like a million years. But I think the best trigger for me was when I went to an ICD conference 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and I was sitting with my colleague Vicky Delacqua, and I said, this is a very inspirational group of people, and I've been going to ICD for years, so it's not like it was a new thing. But I said, why don't we tell the story to make us more approachable? If there was only a way to make professional organizers and what we do very accessible and to bridge that gap, and she was like, that's a great idea. What are you going to do? And I said, I think I'm going to write a book. So that's where I kind of went into the nonfiction world of, sort of a self-help model. And of course, now I'm addicted. I guess it's sort of like getting a tattoo.
It is.
I don't have a tattoo, but if I did, I think I would stand down. I'm too chicken. Type A. No, I would be worried about, I could have done it better. Yeah, I would be constantly criticizing and analyzing that too, which, by the way, I've done with this book, but I've kind of let that go. And I just keep saying the second edition, I will add all that in.
There you go.
But the book does have a website that will become, I hope, a very big clearinghouse of ideas, and where you can find task forces and resources in your own community, as well as therapists that specifically work with those with CD and hoarding behavior. So the website will hopefully become my gift again, to the world, to hopefully provide again direction towards ICD, towards the National Institute of Health under NAMI, and all those things that I think are really good resources. But the second book I have coming out is called Chronological Order, and it'll be out in September. And
Hello,
it's
okay,
called,
girl.
this is my
You're on
problem. This is a problem.
the.
Chronological Order. It's called the Fine Print for a Large Life, and it's a decade by decade look at the four main areas of a human's life, and money, your environment, your relationships, including your parents, and your health and well-being. And all of those four things are consistently addressed in each chapter. And so we get into everything in that book. So I have a co-author on that one, but they just so happen to be both done around the same time. So it's just kind of, yeah.
Okay, well, you know me, I release content all the time, so I'm always like, do it, release it. I'm happy.
Yeah, I'll do it. This book, writing the first book has taught me a lot about writing the second book. And
what is one thing has it taught you? How's it informing your second book?
Because I'm such a big project manager, deadline driven individual, I had to understand that the book has a life of its own, and that it should never have been rushed. It should not be treated like, if it doesn't get done, just put it out the way it is. I'm so careful with my work that the normal way that I operate, to get like a presentation done in time, or my slideshow, that normal way, which is for me, I do a lot at the last minute because that's when I'm the most creative. I might put a draft together weeks in advance or months in advance, but when the time comes down to it and I got 3 days to get it done, that's when all the genius comes out, right?
Yes, exactly.
But a book isn't that way. A book is a very different animal, and the editing process of the book. I mean, I had 5 different editors on the book from the publishing company, and I will tell you that no one caught what our office manager caught. She caught 27 errors. So, and then I caught a few more after she looked at it. So it was silly things like accurate websites that you think are this one website, but you don't fact check it. It's stuff, but the edition that's out now is as perfect as it can be. But I realized I rushed it. Like I put a lot of stress on myself when I could have just taken a little bit more time with that.
Yeah, as a person who's written many books, I just know that it's art. It's a creative process, and any creative process should not be rushed. Any creative process, I mean, it's a tendency to go, I want these things out this quarter. I mean, trust me, I run a media business. I know exactly how it is, but I also have to leave room for the creativity to come in, and so that it takes its time. And then yes, you take your time checking it over and double checking and having 6 pairs of eyes on it, and because you hate putting something out and going, oh, that one page, the words are backwards. It's annoying. It's just annoying. And if it can't be avoided, why not avoid it? Like if you can, why not? But it's part of the creative process. It's like painting. It's like doing a song. It's like anything. Writing a book, whether it's for industry or personal or whatever, it's still a creative process. It still requires your brain to come up with something to say. And so you should never rush. You should take your time and let it come, let it flow. So that when it comes out, you can stand behind it or stand next to it and go, yes.
Yeah, and be proud of it. Yeah.
So but but hey, we learned. Let's say this book, the book the book that came out is where you were at that point.
That's right.
I mean, I look at them as markers. So clearly the things I do now are way better than I did back then. Like it's like I've learned so much. Hopefully that's the point, that we continue learning. Yeah. And I apply that to organizing, people who get organized. I have clients I've had for several years. I'm like, but no, look at you now. You're way more advanced than you were when we first started 2 years ago or a year ago.
That's a good reminder to show people, like, look how far you've come.
It's like, stop saying, well, I don't, like, it doesn't matter. When we first started, remember, this whole thing was a mess, so to speak, but now you're cognizant of what's going on over there. So that moved the line over. So that's good. We have to do that, period. I think we have to do that just in our lives, period. Just remember that wherever we are at that moment, that's where we are. So everything we've done up to that point is where we are. But hopefully we keep moving, the needle keeps moving, and you'll be fine. So if you're organizing everything, I want to ask you, just for people I have people who watch this show who are non-organizers, just to clarify for them your definition of chronic disorganization.
I feel like chronic disorganization is the type of disorganization that no matter what methods you've maybe read organizing books, you have said to yourself, maybe I'm just not wired like I should be, maybe I'm messy, or maybe I have some type of block mentally that I can't get this done. And this level of frustration usually runs right alongside the disorganization itself. So they're almost like these, non-supportive, twins hanging out together of that. And I feel like chronic disorganization is one of those things that really needs to be addressed clinically or professionally, because there's usually something other than you just not being able to figure it out. There's usually, something that is blocking mentally or emotionally. And sometimes it looks like ADHD, sometimes it looks like depression and anxiety. Sometimes it just looks like too much stuff and you just not knowing what to do. But most of the people that have chronic disorganization that I work with, they are very happy that we at the minimum are getting bills paid and they're being on time for social events, not being late to their friends, bridal showers or 50th birthday parties or whatever. They have a schedule and they feel like they're functioning way higher because of our intervention and because of our hard work. So a lot of my clients that have had chronic disorganization will say, well, I don't know how the earth people do it. How do they, how do they keep their home so clean and neat? And, it's really, and I always say, well, you're an earth person too. We just have to, we have to come up with more strategies, and your life is going to be challenging. And if you want this as a goal, but I know you can do it. And with regular routines and structure and support, all those three things, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there is. That's nice. Her book, folks, is I'm Right Here. That's right. I think I want to have an attitude, at least I say it. I'm right here. 10 ways to get help for hoarding and chronic disorganization. Jill Yesko. What's under Jill B. Yesko? Where can you find the book, actually, Miss Jill?
Well, gosh, that's a great question, James. You can find this book, of course, on Amazon as a Kindle, hardback, or paperback. If you want it signed, though, you just have to go to imrighthereBook.com and order a copy. You get a gift from me, which is a really beautiful journal. And I sign it for you. And it's no different in price. It's just that you get the signed copy if you go through my website, imrighthereBook.com.
Book.com. Got it. I'll put that all in the description below, folks. Thanks, Jill, for your time being on the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I always love spending time with you.
Same here. And when your next book comes out, you guys have to come back on. I mean, just again.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, you have to come back on.
I'll bring Laureen with me.
Yeah, please bring her with you. Yeah, bring her on too. And say hello to Vicky next time you see her. I miss my Pittsburgh. I do. I see Jill stuff. I'm like, oh, I miss my North Side. I do miss my North Side. My Troy Hill, but anyway, that's a whole other story, folks. And I miss my Parmenti brothers. So, folks out there, you can follow me. We're all James Law Jr.'s are sold at James Law Jr. on all social media platforms, even on TikTok too. I'm a star there. Also, the Super Organizer LLC is everywhere you want to be. Super Organizers on all streaming service platforms. The show is everywhere you need to go to. Also on YouTube at my online network, JLJ Media. I'm one of the few people who has a network that has over 35 shows, ranging from organizing to being left-handed to being a Star Wars fan and everything between the soap operas. So please check that out. Subscribe. There's a button down here somewhere if you're watching this, somewhere down there. I never know where it is. It's a red button. It's rectangular. It says subscribe. So be kind and do it. Everyone, please get this book. Go out there, run out there and get it. Get it. She's good. Get it. So get it from her. You won't be sorry.